How's it going, guys? It's K-Cars, and today I'm going to show you guys how to change the differential fluid on a 2001 Jeep Cherokee XJ. So the front diff takes 1.5 quarts and the rear diff takes 2.2 quarts. The owner's manual says to use 75 W90. Unless you're towing, then it's going to be something different. Make sure to check your owner's manual just to be sure. You also want it to be API service GL5. So for the front and rear diff combined, it came out to 3.7 quarts. So right here I have 4 quarts of STP gear oil. And like I said, it is 75 W90. You're also going to get some brake parts cleaner just to clean the inside of the diff cover and inside of the diff as well. And you're also going to want to get some RTV. This is just Permatex black gasket maker. You can get an actual gasket, but a lot of people say that RTV is just better. It seals it better. So this is what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be showing you guys a tutorial on the rear diff. This is the front diff. As you can see, it is a little bit harder to get to, I think, and the rear diff is just easier to film. So it is the same exact process, except I think for the front diff, the drain plug actually screws out, and for the rear diff you just kind of like pop it out. I'll show you guys how to do that. Here's the rear diff. This is the fill plug. So the first step is you're going to want to go ahead and take that off, and like I said, it doesn't screw out. You kind of just have to pry it off with a screwdriver. And the reason you want to take the fill plug out first before taking off the diff cover is because if you take the diff cover off and then for some reason you can't get the fill plug out, then you can't fill it back up. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so as you guys see, I did get the fill plug out. It did take a little bit of effort and force, but you kind of just have to use, like, what I did is I just kind of like put 2 thumbs in one spot and just kept prying. It took me a few minutes to get this out, but I managed to get it. Make sure you don't lose this. So now what I'm going to do is actually start unscrewing the diff cover. You want to make sure to leave the top one in, just because whenever you actually do take it off, it won't just fall down. For this, it's going to be a 13mm. Alright guys, so it's been about half an hour. I did have some trouble getting these bolts loose. And I was actually mistaken. It's not a 13mm, actually 1/2 inch fits a lot better. I actually thought this one was stripped because I was using 13 and it kept like jumping. So it actually wasn't stripped. I was just using 13mm instead of 1/2 inch. So with this, I actually got all of them loose. So now I'm going to go ahead and take off all the bolts except for the one on the very top right there. Guys, so as you can see, I took out all of the screws except for the one on the very top. And now you actually want to separate the diff cover. So what I'm going to do is just use the screwdriver, kind of like pry it in there and use a hammer to hammer it in. And we'll see how it goes. And then obviously you want to make sure to have a drain pan right below it, just so you don't get all the oil on your floor. Hey guys, so I've been doing this for about half an hour now, just using the screwdriver and hammer, and it finally broke loose, barely. You can see the oil dripping, so I'm going to try to get it all the way. Just pull it apart. There we go. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is actually take the diff cover off. So I'm going to have to unscrew that top bolt. Then hopefully just take it right off. Alright, so there's the bolt. Take the diff cover off. Alright guys, so as you can see, the diff cover is off. We're going to let this keep draining for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and clean it with brake cleaner and also clean the diff cover and make sure to get all that used RTV off of there. Okay guys, so now that the diff cover is off, you're going to have to get rid of all this old RTV that's on here. I'm going to attempt to do that just by using the screwdriver and kind of scraping it off. And then I also have brake parts cleaner to just spray in there and make it nice and clean. And I'm also going to do that for the actual diff. Alright guys, so it's been about half an hour. I've been trying my best to clean this whole diff cover. As you can see, it is a lot better than what it was before. I kind of just used this knife and kind of scraped it off like that, as well as a screwdriver. And then I also used some rubbing alcohol right here. Just kind of let it soak up this RTV and I just kind of keep rubbing it like that. So I'm gonna keep doing this for a few more minutes, see how it goes. All right, so there's the diff cover. It does look a lot better. I don't know if I'm gonna keep trying to get all this stuff off because it is pretty smooth around the surface the RTV is actually gonna go on. So luckily there's not as much of the used RTV on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner in there around the edge and inside as well. And then you wanna wipe off the inside very well, just so there's no more of that brake cleaner inside of there. And yeah, so let's go ahead and clean this part. I'm gonna try to use the same method. Just probably start off with the screwdriver and scraping it off. And then whatever I can get with that, just use the rubbing alcohol. So first of all, I'm gonna try to just wipe this off a little bit. So we're back on the diff cover. I'm gonna try to use some sandpaper to get the rest of this stuff off. If you have like a little Dremel tool, it would be really useful for this. It's working a lot better than like the knife and rubbing alcohol, so I would recommend just to get all the big chunks off with a knife first and then go ahead and use sandpaper. Alright, that's probably good enough. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe down the inside again. Just get all the shavings out of here. And I'm also going to use some sandpaper up here. Just going to wipe it down one last time to get any shavings out of here. Okay, so once your diff cover is all clean and dry, you're ready to apply the RTV. So with this stuff, you want to make sure to make it an even line, and you're actually going to want to go under the holes just like that. Under the holes. So let's go ahead and see how this goes. Hopefully I don't mess this up. Make sure it's up by the tip first. Alright, let's go. Actually, I'll just use it without the nozzle. Wait. Let's see. I guess, sorry if you couldn't really see much there, but basically we just got all the screws hand tightened. So now I'm just going to use the 1/2 inch and tighten them a little bit more. Not all the way, because the RTV still has to stat a little bit, but I'm going to tighten them down a little bit more. Alright guys, so now you just want to leave that set for about an hour and then come back and torque all of the bolts down. Alright, so once you wait an hour for the RTV to set, you want to go ahead and tighten all the bolts all the way. I don't have a torque wrench, but I'm just going to make it as tight as I thought it was whenever I was loosening all of them. I think you're supposed to torque it down to 30 foot-pounds. So if you have a torque wrench, that's what you want to do. Alright, and then once you've tightened down all your bolts all the way, then you're supposed to wait 24 hours before you fill up the gear oil in there. I'm probably just going to wait overnight and then fill it up tomorrow morning. Alright guys, so it's now the next day. Like I said, you are supposed to wait 24 hours for the RTV to cure before you actually put the new oil in. But most people just wait overnight and it's fine, so that's what I did. Like I said, you are going to need 75 W90 for this unless you are towing. Make sure you check your owner's manual to make sure what you need. Rear diff does take 2.2 quarts, so I just have 1 quart bottles here, so we'll see how this goes. Now if you find bottles like this with a tip, you should just be able to squeeze it in, hopefully. And it's also a good idea to have something right below in case you spill. Okay, so I've gone through about 3 bottles now, but I can't get all the fluid that's in here because they're kind of just like a squeeze bottle. So what I'm going to do is empty out the fluid in these two into this one, so hopefully it'll be easier to actually like squirt it in there. Alright, so you can see it's kind of dripping out now. Now it's supposed to only be filled up half an inch below the fill hole, so I might just like let this drain out a little bit just so it's not over full. I'm going to go ahead and plug it up with this plug. Alright, so now I'm just going to go ahead and wipe this off and then plug it up. Make sure the oil's right there too. Yeah, so we should be good. There we go. Alright, so this is what the front looks like. This is the drain plug for the front. As you see, it is an actual screw. You don't just have to pry it off, you actually have to screw it off. This is what I use to screw off the drain plug. It's kind of like a square thing, and this fit in there pretty well. Other than the drain plug, it's actually going to be the exact same process. And on the left side here, as you can see, that is the diff tag. It tells you what axle ratio you have, so you can't really read it on here, but it says 355. The rear had one as well, but you couldn't read it at all. It was all rusted and it was actually broken in half. So I kind of just threw that away because it was pretty useless. But if you do have one and you can read it, make sure you want to keep it on there. The front does take 1.5 quarts instead of 2.2, so you're going to need less gear oil for the front. But you're also supposed to fill it up half an inch below the fill hole. So what I'm going to do is probably just the same thing that I did for the rear, is just wait until it starts dripping out, then let it drip out. I know it's going to be a little bit overfilled, but that's what most people do. So it shouldn't hurt anything, hopefully. If you guys liked this video or found it entertaining or informative, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.